Welcome to today's webinar brought to you by Continuent. I'm Stephen Fegg, Director at Database Trends and Applications in Unisphere Research. I will be your host for today's broadcast. Our presentation today is titled, How to Build a $10 Million SaaS Business into a $6 billion Unicorn with MySQL and Continuent Tungsten. Before we begin, I want to explain how you can be a part of this broadcast. There will be a question and answer session. If you have a question during the presentation, just type it into the question box provided and click on the submit button. We'll try to get to as many questions as possible, but if your question has not been selected during the show, you will receive an email response. Plus, all viewers today will be entered to win a $100 American Express gift card just for participating. Now, to introduce our speaker for today, Eero Teerikorpi, founder and CEO of Continuent. For more information on our speaker today, you can click on the arrow under his headshot. Now I'm going to pass the event over to you, Eero.
Thank you, and welcome everybody for this an hour-long webinar. Let's see if we can make it squeeze it a little shorter, but I'm happy to stay and reply any and all questions at the end of the webinar as long as it's needed. Yes, my name is Eero Teerikorpi. And I'm a Finn out of Finland, although living in California past almost 30 years. And my background, a little bit of I'm a serial entrepreneur. Continuent is my company number 7. I have been in MySQL related business since early 2000, 2002 to be exactly. And I can claim to be father of Tungsten. Tungsten is the product that Continuent offers. Some of you may have heard of other MySQL-related high availability solutions like Calera or XtraDB cluster. For those, I can claim to be a godfather because it was really based on the technology that we built early 2004, but decided to abandon for good reasons. We can come back to those later as and if needed. Those who know me may have seen my signature calling smooth sailing, and yeah, there is a story behind it. My father is a commercial sea captain. I have come across a couple of times the Atlantic Ocean, and I'm also a Navy officer out of Finnish Navy. You can see me young myself, but I'm also an active sailor, and I like to believe running a tight ship. I have a good team, and it's relatively easy to do, but it's good to understand as a sailor when you're in charge how things flow. And the smooth sailing actually brings us and myself thinking about that as a sailor you want and need to anticipate things. We are living through unprecedented times with COVID-19, and it's regarded as if has come as a surprise. No such thing. I think it was something that we should have seen coming, and it's like when you are on sailing, you need to expect the weather will turn south from time to time, and the storm will come. And when that happens, you react. You take all the safety precautions needed and get ready. And when the finally storm hits, you are prepared. And I like to believe that we all have been taking all the necessary safety precautions lately and be safe. And now we are riding through this storm, but as any sailor knows, even the worst storms comes to end one day. So typically in a few hours on the seas, but it could be a hurricane hitting you and you have to weather it through. But then after that, sun will shine and the smooth sailing continues. And let's hope all of us that. Running a tight ship, there's one thing that I like to ask from you to start. Continuent is about availability business, and we have chosen only to offer 24/7 support with pretty fast response time. We have a 1-hour response commitment, and this is the only support option available from ourselves. And we may be a kind of unique business in this regard, but we believe that we need to be available if we want our customers to have systems available. So the question is, what do you believe the average support response time has been during the past 24 months, taking account our 1 hour promise? But what do you think has been the reality? Stephen, do you want to run the ball?
Absolutely. Thank you, Eero. So you'll see a quick poll question pop up on your screen. And as Eero mentioned, what do you believe has the average support response time been during the past 24 months? You'll see answer selections: 3 minutes, 10 minutes, 30 minutes, 1 hour, 2 hours. So I'm going to give you a few seconds to select your response. In the meantime, if you're listening and watching today and wondering who else is on board, we have representatives from P&G Consultants, GE Power and Water, UCLA, Achievers, InfoWave Systems, Nextech, Billtrust, Bank of America, GE Healthcare, the American Nuclear Society, and UBS, as well as others. So we'll just give you a few more seconds to select your responses. Okay, and it looks like the results are starting to come in. So 22.2% of you said 10 minutes, just over half, 55.6%, 30 minutes, and another 22.2%, 1 hour. Back to you, Eero.
Thank you. Yeah. Yeah, actually, average response time is quite unbelievable. We've been able to meet 3 minutes response times, and we are pretty proud about it. And actually, if I take the just check mark and 10% the past 3 months alone, that's closer to 2 minutes. So this is, we take our business seriously. So, and one of the things is us to make sure that we will remain available. Some of the reasons why we can do this may be the fact that the number of servers that, and clusters deployed over the past 7 years have grown 6x, but same time, number of support requests has come down to 1/3, effectively 18-fold improvement over the past 7 years alone. And this speaks fully the fact that the software, what we offer, is rock solid, but also that we've been able to take care of our customers and train them and keep them good documentation and help them over the years. The support load wasn't high to start with, but just to give an idea, we typically get 1 or 2 requests per day, which is low, and we get about 1 urgent request per 10 days. So we like to make sure that whatever we offer and do is done at the best possible level. We are about availability. Our market is MySQL market, and our focus is those building business critical deployments using open source MySQL database. This could be MariaDB, it could be Percona, and we do have some services to cloud-based databases as well. The reasons why people tend to choose us, besides the really fast response time, is really about our focus on customer satisfaction. 100% seems high, but this is actually reality based on the questions asked a few months ago. And even more important from our point of view, look at who stays with us. And 2019 renewal rate about 97.5%. And it kind of indicates that once again, the value we offer, the quality we offer. And the one customer, for example, that we lost has just happened to be Samsung, and they closed the business unit that was using our software, so there was nothing much we could have done for it. Typical customer of ours sticks with us multiple years, many of them actually exceeding 10 years, like today's subject matter. We have some really large customers. The biggest ones are running hundreds of clusters, and the other solution we have are application services. Most of our customers are in software as a service business. We do have quite a few others that are in 24/7, 365 environment, whether it's e-commerce, financial services, gaming, or telecommunication type of companies. So where do we fit in this marketplace? We've been on the forefront of the open source early on. MySQL actually came in the market late 1990, early 2000. So we basically jumped in really right in the beginning, almost too early. We saw cloud computing emerging. Our internal first discussions about cloud were as early as 2007, 2008, about building a cloud-based solutions using MySQL. And we are focusing a solution that is not platform specific. It is about availability. It's about this global scale. It is about the MySQL. We do not aim to be the biggest company in the business. That's never been a goal. But we aim to be the best at what we do. And this is providing MySQL high availability solutions for business critical customers. Quick couple more key highlights. It is a solution that you can run on premises in the cloud. You can choose to run in hybrid clouds, part of the on-premises, part of in the cloud. It could be multi-cloud. It could be multiple regions, for example, in the AWS, or it could be mixed environment using AWS and Azure, or it could be mixed environment using Google and Azure on AWS. Our customers are safeguarding billions of dollars of revenue while running on our platform. That is the reason why we are taking this business so seriously. And once again, we are only about the database. That's what we focus, and in this case, specifically open source MySQL database, and nothing else. Our team has been around early on, so most of them been on a ride, 15, 16 years. All of them have a 15 plus years operational database experience, either as a DBA or site reliability engineer or database engineering for development purposes. And we do want to make sure that we will be available. Given an idea who is relying on our technology, for example, Adobe, you may have used Adobe Sign. It used to call it EchoSign, online document e-signature service, completely runs on our clustered databases. Carfax, anything and everything you are using with their web interface runs on Continuent Clustering, and also they're using extensively our replication technology, feeding these web front-end applications. Carmin's whole e-commerce system is built on our cluster technology. I'm not sure if you are a game player, but the Riot Games, the whole game account management system, once again, runs on Continuent clusters and in 4 different data centers. One of the last ones that mentioned here is the Net-a-Porter. This is an online e-commerce portal based in UK, focusing on women's clothing. They do have a men's clothing as well. And the whole of their kind of a e-commerce front-end system, account management is on our technology. Today, our focus is Marketo. Marketo was one of our early customers, and they effectively have grown from less than $10 million startup to become a $6 billion unicorn, and significant majority of the database infrastructure relies on MySQL, and all of that runs on our clustered solutions. Marketo became our customer already 2009, and at the time I think there was like they had 4 database instances, couple hundred customers, and revenue less than 10 million. In 2010, the revenue was 13 million. 2013, they went public, growing really fast. 2016, they took company back to private. I think the valuation at the time was $1.5 billion. And then most recent financial transaction was when Adobe acquired Marketo for almost $5 billion. At that time, the the share price for Adobe was 270, and it has grown since. We've seen the market fluctuate up and down, but it's actually based on today's value, the market is actually higher than $6 billion valuation. Question again, the reason why do you think Marketo, as an up-and-coming software as a service, back in 2009, chose to work with Continuent, which was a small, relatively unknown entity? Was it about availability, scalability, performance, cost-related issues, all of the above, none of the above? Back to you, Stephen.
Thank you very much, Eero. Everyone, you'll see the poll question pop up on your screen, so we'll give you a few seconds to select your answers on that. And in the meantime, just a friendly reminder, if you have a question during the presentation, just type it into the question box provided and click on the submit button. We're going to try to get to as many questions as possible, but again, if your question has not been read during the show, you will receive an email response. Okay, so it looks like the results are starting to come in. Okay, so looks like the large majority of folks with us today selected all of the above, 66.7%, and then you had the remainder split between scalability and performance at 16.7% each. Back to you, Eero.
Thank you. Yeah, so why did Marketo choose to work with Continuent? It was about performance, but it wasn't performance alone. It actually was Oracle, or to be exact, the threat of Oracle. At the time, Marketo had concluded that because of the issues they were dealing with, the only path forward was to replace the MySQL backend with the Oracle database. And this was until they came across us and Continuent. So the performance was number one issue that they were dealing with. But it wasn't really alone, and it was actually quite specific. It wasn't typical database performance issue, and I come back to what exactly it was. But right after we dealt with this performance issue, obviously availability became in question. How do you guarantee software as a service operation 24/7 availability? How do we ensure, as a company that was growing really fast at the time and is still growing, they can scale? And obviously the cost is a big factor. So in some ways, none of the above was the right answer, because it was really because of the Oracle or threat of the Oracle database and associated cost. But then in reality, when you look at all of these things, they tend to be on the mind of any and all customers when it comes to databases. Marketo is, and this is about the performance challenge. It is typical software as a service entity, especially those offering services to enterprise customers. At the time, this goes back to early 2000, and they already have accumulated close to 1,000 customers. And this particular graph actually could be from 2012. They had a significant mix of various customers. Some of them are relatively small data sets, and some of them are low transaction volume, as you can see, that a few gigabytes of data and relatively small transaction volume. Marketo is doing marketing analytics, and it's basically collecting information about the websites, collecting information about the email marketing and clicks, so that there's a lot of small transactions and then accumulates a lot of data. As you see, those in the 99% percentile are already relatively large. And then they have a few customers that are in terabytes. Marketo's biggest customer happens to be the single biggest software company in the world. So that you can think how big data volume that might create. And this creates a challenge on multiple levels. But one specific challenge was that because of the high transaction volume and the way the database is specifically, MySQL database works with the master operating with the slaves, slaves were leaving way behind. This slave lag is highly undesirable because it impacts on the ability to get the accurate information about the systems, and also if there is a failure. And if your slave is 3 days behind the master, think about the failover times and getting back online to be able to offer services. And those who know MySQL internals may know that MySQL at the time did not have something called parallel replication or parallel apply. And this is something that Continuent came into play because we had built our own replication technology. The designer of that replication is Ed Archibald, who used to work for Sybase in mid-80s and was the father behind the Sybase replication server. And he really understood inside out on the replication technology. And his colleague, Robert Hodges, also ex-Sybase guy, effectively built the foundation of our solution. This kind of a coincidentally effort was funded by Facebook because Facebook was dealing with the same issues at the time. So they enabled us to invest money and get this resolved. And this was really how we changed the whole dynamics for Marketo, basically dropping the latency from days in mere minutes. Marketo at the time had set goal that the slave cannot be more than 5 minutes behind the master. In reality, that was achieved, and in most of our customers actually, when they deploy our technology and solution, the latency is in sub-second. But this is depending on the size of the database, data set, and also naturally the transaction volume. But then the other challenge is obviously, so it is about the availability. Whenever you run online business, it's 24/7, 365 during the failovers, but also during the maintenance cycles. How do you achieve that? Our solution was to build Tungsten Clustering, which has built-in failover, and it has ability of to provide zero downtime maintenance operation. I'll come back to those a little bit later. But this effectively creates a foundation then when people can talk about uptimes in months or years without bringing the systems down. And one of the key success elements that what we designed early on was a Tungsten connector. It's really a proxy, but it's not just a proxy, it's an intelligent proxy. It's a kind of a really intelligent traffic cop managing all the traffic. This connector knows the configuration of the database cluster below it. It can guide with using intelligent load balancing, whether it's an update to master and reads to the slaves. And if the slave is too far behind, it can guide it back to master to make sure that you get the consistent view of the data on the cluster. And this was a key and still remains the key for our successful deployment. Obviously, there are some other components that we discussed about the replication technology that was built by ourselves for the cluster that intelligently connects back to the connector. And we have a business rules-based cluster management that can communicate with the connector if the master fails. Manager realizes that using group communication protocol technologies, sends information to connector. Connector stops the immediately traffic, allowing cluster to reconfigure, promote the new master, and allows continuation of the operation without any seamless downtime from the application point of view. The application never disconnects. We just keep it on hold a few seconds, and off we go again. The other issue obviously is a challenge around scalability. So how do you create kind of an easy, consistent way scale from tens of the customers to hundreds of the customers to potentially thousands of the enterprise customers. Many software as a services companies have chosen a pod architecture, means that you deploy these type of clusters of database data services that host anywhere between 1 to few hundred customers of this software as a service entity. If you have a big customer and big data set, high transaction volume, you may want to dedicate a single cluster, a pod for that customer. If you have a medium-sized customers, you may choose to allocate few tens of them on the pod. If you have a small customers, you can allocate few hundreds of these pods. But this effectively allows you to have a consistent way to increase scalability, effectively indefinitely. In Marketo's case, they started with, I don't remember, it was 3 clusters or 4 clusters. Today they are approaching 200 clusters servicing their vast customer base. And obviously, with the scalability comes management of these entities. When you have a single database, you have a single front end of these databases and make it easier. What we have built is an easy automation. This comes handy when you are about to deploy new clusters. And obviously, there needs to be a management interface also to manage these tens, potentially hundreds of database clusters and graphical user interface. We have a extensive, obviously, there is a command line interface, there is a graphical user interface, there's an API that you can manage these clusters. So depending on your environment, the other tools you may have, you can integrate those quite handily. Last but not least, obviously, is the cost element. The fact that we are operating in an open source realm at least gives you the database layer free of charge to the extent the database is open source, and you can use those. So what we do is we offer a commercial enhancement extension on top of that, but there are a few things that separates from a typical software company. We are not charging based on the size of the database, not based on the size of the instance you're running in the cloud. We are not charging based on the CPU. It's just basically a question of number of database servers. And the other element is the fact that we do not charge based on actual numbers you may have deployed. We make an annual subscription that includes software and support, and we built an environment that based on the information you provided, how many database you're likely to deploy, you pay us a fixed annual fee, or in many cases, multi-year deals. We have today customers that have 3-year, 4-year, even 5-year engagement with us, and we give them basically one flat annual fee. They can cover this. So this becomes a predictable cost, and it's from our point of view, it's a commitment, two-way commitment. We know that we have a steady customer, and the customer knows that the cost is and will be manageable. There's no license keys. It is based on our system. We trust our customers. We want to build a long-term reliance. And as you can see from the pricing charts, this is not a linear pricing. We realize that the more you deploy, the less incremental value we provide you, both from the actual number of server point of view and from the support point of view. So it basically flattens out quite significantly as the number of the databases grow. Also, the longer commitment you are willing to make, the larger discount you also will get with that commitment. So there's multiple reasons. Databases tend to be multi-year commitments by the companies anyway, so that actually it does make sense for both parties. And this way, while we are a commercial entity in open source realm, we are approximating an open source pricing and business models by making pretty flat, high value offering. So as a recap, it is about availability. It is about the scalability. It is about performance. And it is about cost, why Marketo ultimately became and remains our customers. And obviously the fact that we remain available them in minutes notice does help a lot. So quick recap, I don't go to details on this one, but if anybody reads the slides later, is going to hand the way to see what exactly this deployment is and why they ultimately chose us. It is about availability, scale, continuous MySQL operation for the software as a service company. By the way, we had a Marketo related webinar back in 2013. If somebody wants to kind of get the throwback view and the reasoning and thinking at the time, Nick Bongioli, who was the CTO at the time, did join our webinar at the time. So that all of this, what I covered today, pretty much was stated on that same webinar. And whatever holds true then holds true still. Just to give you an idea who else is using Continuent solutions, as other software as a service, this is based in Florida. They are medical data software as a service, providing what they call electrical media systems for the small medical shops. They have hundreds of these across the US. Effectively, it's a patient management, billing, and other related services they offer these doctors. These guys, obviously there's a HIPAA compliance issue. They run in AWS. They want to make sure that the disaster recovery is also being taken care of. So their deployment is slightly different from Marketo. It is about the master cluster that handles all of the main traffic and services for these software service customers of theirs, but they also have a secondary deployment that is readily available at, once again, minutes of notice. The slave lag within the main cluster is sub-second. The secondary cluster is behind maybe a few seconds, maybe a few tenths of seconds, depending, once again, data set size and transaction volumes. But it is available effectively immediately should there be a need. And once again, this was about being able to scale, but also secure the data. And all of the data that, by the way, within Tungsten replication is encrypted, so that that's how we can achieve the HIPAA compliance. This particular customer also used the database data level encryption technologies. That's not something that we offer, but that's part of the related services. But we fully operate within the encrypted data environments as well. These guys have been with us close to 8 years. They started with a couple clusters, grown 17 today, and they keep growing as their business keeps growing. The other one, it's kind of interesting. You may not game players, but there's some of the largest games in the world are running on our platforms. This particular one is one that has operation in US, Europe, and Asia Pacific. They have hundreds of millions of players for this particular game. And their requirement was to be able to provide them a consistently available view of the game, so that when you travel from US to Europe or Asia Pacific, you actually still have access to your own credentials and state of the game. It used to be the case that when you travel different places in the world, you have to recreate your account for that environment, and you lost whatever you were doing in your own local environment. So their goal was that they provide consistent view across the world and make sure that the game remains available. And when the There was a reason, maybe 6 months ago, a weather event on China Sea that effectively knocked down the data centers. These are in Singapore. This runs on an AWS environment. It still allowed all of the game players in Asia Pacific region to access their data using the other remaining data centers. So this is the basically idea was that being able to provide the single view, but also by bringing the data services close to the users, the response times became significantly faster. And in this particular case, the customer's update rate is quite low compared to the read traffic. It's feasible. Some other customers of ours may have chosen to use multi-master deployment model. So instead of having these relay clusters in different parts of the world, you can also deploy a multi-master. Then you can also have updates distributed globally, not only read traffic. So quick question for the team joining us today on the webinar. What brought you in? Are you actively looking MySQL availability solution? Do you have something in place, but you are not quite as happy as you would like to be? No, you actually have something and you're really happy with it. No, you are not thinking anything of that, but maybe in the future, you're just here educating yourself. Stephen?
Thank you, Eero. Okay, everyone, you will see our final poll question pop up on your screen. Please kindly take a moment to select your answer. And why don't we get to one of our viewer questions while we wait for those answers? Eero, here's the question. We are currently using AWS RDS Aurora. How does Tungsten clustering compare to that?
Interesting and good question. AWS Aurora is a really good solution, and whatever it does really well because it's really a fully managed database as a service running in AWS. A couple of things that how we differ. One of the things is that we actually use native MySQL, so we have the benefit of the up-to-date feature functionality set on MySQL and MariaDB, whereas the Aurora tends to be a few versions behind right now. I think they are on 5.6 predominantly. They may have some 5.7 deployments. They don't have anything for 8.0, for example. Aurora also is AWS cloud specific. If you run everything there, great. But if you are kind of a reasonable customer that you are looking to kind of distribute the data traffic in different clouds for whatever reason, one of the good reasons actually could be giving you more leverage to negotiate the better deals. One of our large customer initially run in Rackspace. They migrated into AWS, but then they split the traffic between Azure and AWS and allowing them basically negotiate on the two fronts for better deals on the compute instance. The things that we do better, obviously, are in geographically distributed deployment. Something like the gaming company that was covered most recently, that couldn't be built with the Aurora, not today and not in any time in the future, because we approach traffic differently. We use the shared nothing. We are using asynchronous replication, and whereas Aurora is basically shared everything type of approach based on the disk or the storage subsystem. It works great on local environment. Will not work quite as well. There's a host of other things. The fact that we offer this amazing support service is one of the you hardly will get from AWS or anybody else.
Understood. Thanks, Eero. Okay, so it looks like the results are coming in. All right. It looks like 16.7% are actively investigating. There's some folks that are not right now, but it's in our future plans. And then some other folks that are just there to inform themselves. Back to you, Eero.
Thank you. So a little bit of our solutions that we've been touching so that you get also the kind of a idea what are specific the key values offered on the product level. We have discussed about the continuous operation. This is basically automatic failover, allows us to promote the slave as a master and keep continue. But that's not as frequent event as any type of a maintenance event would be. It could be related to database upgrade. It could be related to operating system upgrade. It could be related to schema changes, updates. And it's important for any application, especially business critical application with 24/7, 365 requirement to be able to do this while in production. And our connectivity layer in front of the database cluster allows to do that because we can shield the changes. Typical scenario is that we take the master down, make the update, and do the kind of rotating cycle. Actually, there's a little bit more here, but I was jumping ahead of myself. Yes, the benefits that we offer, we covered extensively already. It's about the customer service availability, us being able to provide a solution that the uptime is measured months, if not years. It's reasonably priced, free database, and there's a cost optimization that you can basically choose your cloud environment. You are not stuck in any specific cloud environment. And the fact that we eliminate the downtime and any associated cost, that so that your service remains available has actually significant value by itself. One thing that I haven't covered too deeply yet is significant reduce of DBTA time. It's hard pressed to argue that we wouldn't need DBAs, database administrators, to run this system. Yes, it is a sophisticated piece of software, but it's, as we discussed, highly reliable, and we have automated a lot of operations that makes it really easy to build and manage large deployments. But going back to this continuous operation, we covered extensively zero time that you can do effectively any and all updates on the fly. And the typical scenario is that you basically shut off or shut off master from the cluster. The remaining part of the cluster keeps running and servicing the customers. You can do whatever maintenance you want, and then you bring it back online, and then you do the same thing for all the remaining elements and components in the databases in the cluster. Geographic scale. This is one of the continuous solution signs. The fact that we are using asynchronous replication gives us the ability to build these solutions that can have either master and relay clusters across the globe, or it can be multi-master clusters across the globe. All can be managed through single pane of a window. Whatever you have deployed, you have a visibility and accessibility on all those. And the operation does not only have an automatic failover locally, but you actually have an automated failover globally. We do not want to do this global data center level failovers automatic because you do need to know why, what triggered that, and there has to be some intelligent decision making made. Unless otherwise it might kind of escalate and bring the whole system down. But when you decide that global failover is needed, it's just a matter of one command, and you can execute that in matter of, in some cases, seconds, and some cases, tens of seconds when you replace traffic from one data center to another. And once again, our connectivity layer, it's not only globally or locally aware, it's globally aware so that all the traffic can be seamlessly connected to a new set of clusters, different parts of the world. We run in effectively in any environment, so that whether it's a bare metal, virtual, or cloud, and this has been always. There's nothing platform specific, so that today we have a customers running on all of the major clouds. We have a customers running in mixed environment, both at the on-premises and cloud, and also between different clouds. And we can quite easily transfer the traffic from one cloud to another. It's just a matter of setting up a new cluster in another cloud, redirecting the replication from one cloud to another, adding it in part of the connectivity layer information, and when you are ready to make the switch, you can do that. And you can do that without the downtime. It's pretty amazing. So effectively, we provide the solution that can withstand data center zone, regional level failures and outages, and still provide continuous operation for your own customers. A couple times we touched the MySQL proxy. We have had one since 2007 was the first intelligent proxy built, and we've been enhancing capability and functionality. Yes, it is highly tuned to work with our Tungsten Clustering Solution, but it actually can be used within other environments as well. We are in the process of providing this proxy under the name Tungsten Proxy as an AMI in clouds in a not too distant future. But this is really one of the key parts of our solution. The fact that we have this advanced replication, you may or may not know and care, but the Continuent was the first one to implement global transaction IDs on MySQL replication environment. This goes back to 2008, 2009. So basically when we decided that the MySQL own replication was not adequate, we decided to build one our own, and using the knowledge and experience going back to Sybase days, mid-80s, we were able to build really powerful, effective. And not only this replication is more advanced than anything available MySQL native environment, but this is also really works in a heterogeneous environment. You can think this as like Oracle Golden Gate solution for MySQL. You can take the replication feed in real time from a MySQL, MariaDB, Percona server, another, even from Aurora, RDS, MySQL, Google Cloud SQL, Azure SQL, and feed that into, for example, Redshift, Hadoop, Kafka, or Vertica. So then you actually have a tool, so you don't need the ETL and real-time feed in your big data lakes or big data, and we have multiple targets to choose from. And you can not only have one target, but you actually have different targets. You can guide part of the traffic in the Redshift, part of the traffic, for example, Vertica, if that is your choice. And it has a significant technology built on the filtering, so that then you don't necessarily have to feed the full data sets. You can actually decide what part of information is fed to what the specific target. It has a significant value by itself. We actually offer a Tungsten Replicator as an AMI on AWS today, that if you are interested in the additional replication capabilities, you can find that from there. One of the last elements, obviously, is that the fact that this is a MySQL native. It is not MySQL compatible solution. You can choose any version of MySQL. You can choose both the flavor of MySQL. You can use a version of the MySQL, and you don't need to make any changes on your application. All of that, the connectivity layer between our cluster and the application, the Tungsten connector, reads MySQL own wire protocol and understand the field, so that you can keep using your applications as they are today. All right, thank you everybody. This wraps our presentation. I hope you have enjoyed hearing the ride we have had 10 years plus with Marketo, and the reasons why they chose our technology, and why few other customers of ours that I chose to cover avid, and why they stick with us. So even if you think you are happy with your current solution, feel free to take a look at our solution a little bit deeper. we are happy to provide free of charge proof of concepts, those who are interested, so that you can get a better idea what everything we can offer for you. So, some additional questions.
Thank you, Eero. We're going to go into questions from our viewers. First question, what databases do you support aside from MySQL?
Yeah, as indicated during the presentation, we are MySQL shop. In the past, we did offer some solution for PostgreSQL and even Oracle databases, especially on the replication side. But most recently, we decided that we are best served for ourselves and for our customers focusing on MySQL. And within MySQL realm, it's basically any and all versions. Even you can mix and match them. That's not necessarily recommended for the individual clusters per se, so that we like those to be pretty much identical to avoid any type of additional confusion. But you can have an environment that you can run any of these. And then obviously we offer service levels also for the RDS, MySQL, RDS Aurora, Google Cloud SQL, and Azure SQL. Right now, you can use RDS, MySQL as a cluster target. You couldn't use that for and like Google Cloud SQL, but we do not offer, for example, clustering for Aurora. But we do offer replication services, all of these databases mentioned.
Understood. Thanks for clarifying. Next question, can you explain zero downtime maintenance and how it works?
Yeah, thanks. Maybe I was not clear enough during my earlier presentation. The fact that we have this nicely orchestrated cluster, including the 3 key components. It's a connectivity layer, proxy in front of the database cluster management layer, and then a replication layer. When this works in concentrated, we have an environment that basically is pretty much up to date any given time. Then when you want to do some maintenance on the database, the recommended approach is as such that you basically actually it would be better to shun one of the slaves first, and then to whatever maintenance you want to do that. And then you can, when you have done, whether it's a database upgrade, update, application change, schema change, you bring that back in the cluster. And then you do same operation for the second slave and bring back in the cluster. Then we have a tool to be able to promote one of the existing slaves as your new master. And then this all while the system is up and running and operation continues. And when the switch has taken place, so that the old master is now slave and one of the existing slaves is new master, you can take this old master and do the maintenance operation similar way as the other slaves, and then you bring it back into cluster, and should you choose to bring it back online, you can do it. But all this operation can happen while whole system is up and running, catering the customers using the database layer, and without any significant delays customers or real performance hit. And instead of doing this at the Saturday morning 2 a.m., you actually can do this and during the normal business hours and operation. Obviously, there may be some other reasons that you may choose to do it a little lighter load environment, but that's up to you, your choice, and what you're willing to do.
Got it. Our next question, I hadn't heard of this intelligent proxy for MySQL before. Can you tell us a bit more?
Yeah, proxies in general are quite well-known entities and have been used, and we for the longest time we called this Tungsten connector. So it may be a little confusing because it really has been a proxy, but we wanted to make a separation from the kind of quote-unquote dumb proxy, something that has built-in intelligence. If you have a like HA proxy that effectively is a traffic cop, but most of the proxies are relatively simple-minded. what they can do and will do for you, but by doing what they do already is quite effective. You basically can do guiding the traffic, for example, in a proxy that if you know from a certain port comes to the traffic that is an update, that always goes to master. And if maybe you have another port that is for the preserve the read traffic, proxy helps you to guide this to the slave database. But then what we have done is that because we are tightly integrated the replicator, Tungsten Manager, and the proxy together, we actually have a better visibility on each database within a cluster. And this allows us to make more intelligent decisions because we know which one is the master, and even if the master changes from it, then there's a switch or failover event, proxy already knows about that. And there's nothing needs to be done on the proxy level because we always keep track where's this master, where's the slave. And then additionally, intelligent is on the load balancing, that we can have a different type of rules. It could be simple as a round robin, depending on the slave, or it could be based on the latency. If a certain slave is too far behind, we may choose to not guide any read traffic until it catches up. And once again, this is an orchestration between the replication and connect relay and manager working together, providing information and being able to make these decisions. So this hides the complexity of the cluster, but it increases overall functionality and availability of the cluster together. I hope that was clear enough.
Absolutely. We have a little bit of time left. So at this point, I'd just like to give you the opportunity to give a final remark, what you'd really like our viewers today walking away from keeping in mind.
Yeah, as discussed about VR Continuent Ease has always been about the MySQL availability. And we aim for long-term engagement. We take our business seriously. And we like concept of smooth sailing. And this is more about for our customers than for ourselves. Obviously, we don't mind riding on the smooth waters by ourselves, but the real focus is always, has been, will be, and remains to be, customers. We are a solution that you can run in multiple environments. We started as an on-premises solution provider, but the significant majority of our existing customers actually already run today in the cloud, many of them in AWS, many of them also in other clouds. While we don't claim to be a database as a service provider, we don't claim to be fully managed data service provider. In many ways, we are both of those. And so the way we have built the solution and the way we are providing a service solution, that's the effect and result. We are not a MySQL DBA or remote DBA service provider, but since we have a so deep knowledge in MySQL, and when we are dealing with our customers, it doesn't matter what the issue is. When we are being approached, even when there is a issue, we will step in and we will help and get you up and running. And then only after that we ask questions as to how we could avoid this, especially if it was not really continuing related issues. Sometimes it's just running out of this space. Sometimes it's a network related issue, but we don't really care. If you have a problem, we step in, we help you, and then we'll figure out how to avoid that in the future. So when you are looking, comparing the solutions, and when you think about, you can think Continuent as a solution provider that provides fully managed data services running in the cloud in multiple levels. Thank you, everybody. We are 15 minutes, 35 seconds, so we ended up using the most of the time. I thank you for you joining us today. I hope you found this informative and interesting. Thank you.
I'd like to thank our speaker today, Eero Teerikorpi, founder and CEO of Continuent. If you would like to review this presentation or send it to a colleague, please use the same URL that you used for today's live event. It will be archived, and you'll receive an email tomorrow once the archive is posted. And just for participating in today's event, you could win this $100 American Express gift card. The winner will be announced on March 31st. We will reach out to you via email if you are the lucky viewer. Thank you, everyone, for joining us, and we hope to see you again soon.
Thank you.